22nd chapter. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading 22nd chapter in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading the Pṛthu Maharaj Katha in Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this chapter, in this Adhyay, Pṛthu Maharaj will meet four Kumaras. Four Kumaras, son of Lord Brahma, and four kids. We cannot call them kids, they are Jnana Vruddha. Their bodies are like 5-year-old babies, but they are Jnana Vruddha. They are very aged. When we look at their knowledge and their realization and their position as spiritual masters, Sampradaya Acharyas. So this chapter is, it's full of instructions and action items for us. I will be reading from verse number 1 to 36, and then we'll discuss and share realizations on this chapter. So I will start with Mangalacharan, and then one by one we can start reading, all the readers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we'll start from first verse. I'll start reading first verse, and then whoever like to read, please raise hands. We can go in circle.
I think we the way we do this, Prabhu, is we read all the verses in one shot. Like
right.
each devotee reads like 10 verses.
Yeah.
And then you can take over and lead the discussion. So yeah. If you can just bring the translation.
Yeah, just verses, right? Just verse.
Yeah.
Just verse, just translations we need, right? Okay.
Yeah. You need to
only this trans and purports also we don't need. Okay.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. I think Megha Mataji wanted to read. So Megha Mataji, you can start.
Yes, please.
So there are 30, right? So maybe we'll do 12, 12, 12. 3 devotees can read 12 verses each.
Right. Then 36. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about the message in the group. Usually what happens, like I join from phone and then I raise my hand, but for some reason nobody notices. So that's why I explicitly messaged this time.
But that message was very encouraging, Mataji. Well, thanks for sharing your enthusiasm. It's inspiring.
Yeah. Sorry, we didn't realize that you were raising your hand, but yeah.
Maybe something is wrong with my phone because I usually join from my phone. But anyways. Okay. The great sage Maitreya said, while the citizens were thus praying to the most powerful King Pṛthu, the 4 Kumāras, who were as bright as the sun, arrived on the spot. Seeing the glowing effulgence of the 4 Kumāras, the masters of all mystic power, the king and his associates could recognize them as they descended from the sky. Seeing the 4 Kumāras, Pṛthu Mahārāja was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore the king, with all his officers, very hastily got up and anxiously, as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately bowed down, thus he worshipped the 4 Kumāras. After this, the king took the water. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumāras and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. The 4 great sages were elder to Lord Shiva, and when they were seated on the golden throne, they appeared just like fire blazing on an altar. Mahārāja Pṛthu, out of his great gentleness and respect for them, began to speak with great restraint as follows. King Pṛthu spoke, "My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult for even the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. Any person upon whom the Brahmans and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything, which is very rare to obtain in this world as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas." Pṛthu Maharaj continued, "Although you are traveling in all planetary
Just,
sorry, where is it?
yeah, here.
Oh, I sorry. Okay, sorry. Although you are traveling in all planetary systems, people cannot know you, just as they cannot know the super soul. Although he is within everyone's heart as the witness of everything, even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the super soul. A person who is not very rich and is attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and servants who are engaged in offering the exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is also glorified.
You can read till 12th verse, Mataji. So yeah, this one.
On the contrary, even though full of all opulence and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come in, and where there is no water for washing their feet, is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live. Maharaj Pṛthu offered his welcome to the four Kumāras, addressing them as the best of Brahmanas. He welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observe the vows of celibacy, and although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourselves just like small children."
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Vishal Prakash Prabhu. Yeah, please. 13th verse.
Pṛthu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in the dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, who only aim in sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? Pṛthu Maharaj continued, "My dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your about your good and bad fortune, because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how in this material world we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities, who are his parts and parcels, and for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. The great sage Maitreya continued, thus Sanat Kumara, the best of the celibates, after hearing the speech of Pṛthu Maharaj, which is meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words, and very sweet to hear, smiled with full satisfaction and began to speak as follows. Sanat Kumara said, "My dear King Pṛthu, I am very nicely questioned by you. Such questions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you who are always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you ask such questions because that is the behavior of saintly persons. Such intelligence is befitting your position. When there is a congregation of devotees, their discussions, questions, and answers become conclusive to both the speaker and the audience. Thus, such a meeting is beneficial for everyone's real happiness." Sanat Kumara continued, "My dear king, you already have an inclination to glorify the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such attachment is very difficult to achieve. But when one has attained such unflinching faith in the Lord, it automatically cleanses lusty desires from the core of the heart. It has been conclusively decided in the scriptures, after due consideration, that the ultimate goal for the welfare of human society is detachment from the bodily concept of life and increased and steadfast attachment for the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental beyond the modes of material nature. Attachment for the Supreme can be increased by practicing devotional service, inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, applying Bhakti Yoga in life, worshipping the Yogeshwara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by hearing and chanting about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These actions are pious in themselves. One has to make progress in spiritual life by not associating with persons who are simply interested in sense gratification and making money. Not only such persons, but one who associates with such persons should be avoided. One should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. One can be thus elevated by being disgusted with the taste for sense enjoyment. A candidate for spiritual advancement must be non-violent, must follow in the footsteps of great acharyas, must always remember the nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, must follow the regulative principles without material desire, and while following the regulative principles, should not blaspheme others. A devotee should lead a very simple life and not be disturbed by the duality of opposing elements. He should learn to tolerate them.
Yes, Jagannath bro, please.
The devotee should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constantly hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These pastimes are like ornamental decorations on the ears of the devotees. By rendering devotional service and transcending the material qualities, one can easily be fixed in transcendence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Upon becoming fixed in his attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the grace of the spiritual master, and by awakening knowledge and detachment, the living entity situated within the heart of the body and covered by the five elements burns up his material surroundings exactly as fire arising from wood burns the wood itself. When a person becomes devoid of all material desires and liberated from all material qualities, he transcends distinctions between actions executed externally and internally. At that time, the difference between the soul and the supersoul, which was existing before self-realization, is annihilated. When a dream is over, there is no longer a distinction between the dream and the dreamer. When the soul, for sense gratification, when the soul exists for sense gratification, he creates different desires. And for that reason, he becomes subjected to designations. But when one is in the transcendental position, he is no longer interested in anything except fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Only because of different causes does a person see a difference between himself and others, just as one sees the reflection of a body appearing differently manifested on water, on oil, or in a mirror. When one's mind and senses are attracted to sense objects for enjoyment, the mind becomes agitated. As a result of continually thinking of sense objects, one's real consciousness almost becomes lost, like the water in a lake that is gradually sucked up by the big grass straws on its bank. When one deviates from his original consciousness, he loses the capacity to remember his previous position or recognize his present one. When the remembrance is lost, all knowledge acquired is based on a false foundation. When this occurs, learned scholars consider that the soul is lost. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-realization than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. For human society, constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply it for sense gratification brings about the destruction of everyone's interests. When one becomes devoid of knowledge and devotional service, he enters into species of life like those of trees and stones. Those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nescience must not associate with the mode of ignorance. For hedonistic activities are the greatest obstructions to realization of religious principles, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last, liberation. Out of the four principles, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, liberation has to be taken very seriously. The other three are subject to destruction by the stringent law of nature, that is, death. We accept as blessings different states of higher life, distinguishing them from lower states of life. But we should know that such distinctions exist only in relation to the interchange of the modes of material nature. Actually, these states of life have no permanent existence, for all of them will be destroyed by the Supreme Controller.
Repol. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, everyone, for reading this beautiful verses and the meanings. So, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So in this chapter, this four Kumaras, as we see in the previous chapters, how the Pṛthu Maharaj was born from the churning of the thighs of Vena, King Vena, and then how Pṛthu Maharaj is the Shaktavesh avatar of Lord Vishnu, and how, since he's avatar of Lord Vishnu, whatever he's doing is presenting the ideal example, perfection of all the activities as a king. And then when Lord Vishnu appeared after Yajna to bless Pṛthu Maharaj, he told him that four Kumaras will come and come to give their blessings and teachings. So yeah, four Kumaras are now appearing in front of Pṛthu Maharaj to bless him and give him the ultimate knowledge about Supreme Personality of Godhead. So and then in the beginning we see the discussion about how the Kumaras are coming and how the Pṛthu Maharaj is welcoming them. So yeah, before we get started here, I saw this small article in this ISKCON Desire Tree about the four Kumaras. So it will be interesting to see how we see four Kumaras in the Bhagavatam in multiple places. Like four Kumaras are son. Yeah, I'll first read through this and then we can continue our discussion. So the four Kumaras, namely Sanak, Sanandan, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumar, are traditionally the four mind-born sons of Lord Brahma. They are Manas Putras of Lord Brahma. Famous throughout the Puranic literatures, they are found also in Upanishads. They are renowned yogis who request their father for the boon of remaining perpetually 5 years old. They are eternal kids or Chiranjeevis. They were created by their father in order to advance creation. However, they chose to undertake lifelong vows of celibacy, brahmacharya, just like Shukdev Goswami. When they were born, and they were ordered by their father, Lord Brahma, to expand the creation, but because of their state of high realization, they were enlightened Atmaramas, so they couldn't get into this Grihastha life to expand the material creation. After obtaining initiation into the Sri Gopal mantra, these four brothers then left meditations on impersonal God. Before, when they were born, four Kumaras were impersonal. We see the pastime of Jaya and Vijaya, and how before that, yeah, this pastime comes before that, when Kumaras come and when they taste the tulsi or smell the tulsi on the lotus feet of the Lord, and then they start worshipping the personal form of the Lord. So before that, they were impersonal. Their realization was impersonal. Just like Shukdev Goswami. Shukdev Goswami, after hearing the verses of Bhagavatam sung by disciples of Vyasadeva, he became Krishna's devotee. In the similar way, after the after like, what they taste or they smell tulsi on the lotus feet of Lord, and then they become devotees of Lord Vishnu. So And then they, after obtaining initiation into the Gopal mantra, these four brothers then left meditations into a personal, impersonal God and realized the truth lies beyond the impersonal, in the highest person, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Having obtained his grace and being initiated into Vaishnava tradition, they began to spread the teachings of the path of renunciation. During renunciation into this Vaishnava tradition, they received the Sri Shaligram Shila known as Sri Sarve Swara Bhagwan, which has been passed on to from each guru to disciples since their time. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, in his conversation with Uddhava in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavata Purana, declares, Etavan yoga adishto maschidche sanaka dibhi. I taught this yoga to my disciples, the four brothers hated by Sanaka. During the initiation, the most holy 18-syllabled Sri Gopal mantra was given to them, a fact recorded in Vishnu Yamal. The holy 18-syllabled mantra comes from the lotus-like mouth of Lord Sri Krishna, Sriman Narayan. It was accepted by the four Kumaras and also by their disciples, Sri Narada Muni. This mantra is Vedic mantra from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad of Atharva Veda. This is the initiatory mantra still used in Sampradaya today. Sri Sanat Kumar Samhita is a famous treatise on the worship of Sri Radha Krishna authored by the brothers, and they have also produced the Sri Sanat Kumar Tantra, part of Pancharatra literature. Their teachings can be found throughout all Vedic literature. It is due to the tradition coming into contact with four Kumaras that it came to be known as Sanakadi Sampradaya or Kumar Sampradaya, and which later known as Nimbarka Sampradaya. There is this Tatiya temple in the Vrindavan. If any of you have visited, it's very famous temple, and that is the temple of the Kumar Sampradaya or Nimbarka Sampradaya. So this way, this Kumaras very glorious personalities, and when they appeared in front of Pṛthu Maharaj, uh, uh, they were as bright as sun and arrived on the spot. And then uh, how the Pṛthu Maharaj and his associates welcomed them, and then they hastily got up as anxiously as the conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by modes of material nature. The comparison is very apt here that yeah, the purports of this chapter that we are reading are very extensive, so we'll go through purports of some of the verses. I think that will only take most of our time, but yeah, as we can do, we will go through some of the purports. So seeing the four Kumaras, Pṛthu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore the king with all his officers very hastily got up as anxiously as conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Like when, as that means naturally, very naturally, they were attracted to welcoming these four great souls or Kumaras. Kumaras are eternal brahmacharis. They don't wanted to grow and get into the complexities of adulthood. That's why they just kept themselves very small kids of 5 years old. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Prakriti Kriya purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prakriti Kriya manani gunhe karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Every conditioned soul is influenced by a particular mixture of modes of material nature. As such, conditioned soul is attracted to certain types of activity which he is forced to perform because he is completely under the influence of material nature. Here, Pṛthu Maharaj is compared to such a conditioned soul, not because he was conditioned soul, but because he was so anxious to receive the Kumaras that it was as if without them he would have lost his life. The conditioned soul is attracted by the objects of sense gratification. His eyes are attracted to beautiful things, his ears are attracted to hear nice music, his nose is attracted to enjoy the aroma of nice flower, and his tongue is attracted to taste nice food. Similarly, all his other senses, his hands, his legs, his belly, his genital, his mind, etc., are so susceptible to attraction of the objects of enjoyment that he cannot restrain himself. Pṛthu Maharaj, in the same way, could not restrain himself from receiving the four Kumaras. who were bright by the dint of their spiritual progress, and thus not only by himself, but also his officers and associates all received the four Kumaras. It is said birds of a feather flock together. They were all on very elevated position because of association of Pṛthu Maharaj. That's why they all could realize the importance of appearance of these four Kumaras. In this world, everyone is attracted by a person of the same category. A drunkard is attracted to persons who are also drunkards. Similarly, a saintly person is attracted by other saintly persons. Pṛthu Maharaj was in the topmost position of spiritual advancement, and as such, he was attracted by the Kumaras, who were of the same category. It is said, therefore, that a man is known by his company. Pṛthu Maharaj was attracted to four Kumaras because he himself was very spiritually advanced. So being attracted to your spiritual master and being attracted to Vaishnavas uh, is a sign is a sign of great Vaishnava quality, and by Srila Prabhupada's mercy we have so many devotees like that all around us throughout the world in ISKCON. So yeah, so we should take as much advantage of it as we can. Yeah, so and then yeah, I have selected few verses that I wanted to go through. When the great sages accepted the reception according to instruction, finally took their seats offered by the king. And then after this, yeah, the how in humble mood Pṛthu Maharaj welcomed the four Kumaras, how he worshipped them, and how glorious they were. Like when they were sitting on the throne that Pṛthu Maharaj offered them, they were looking like the fire, the most bright, vibrant fire. Because of their brahmacharya, their brahmacharya, their very exalted position, they were very effulgent and very exalted. So they offered them reception, and thus he worshipped the four Kumaras. He started worshipping four Kumaras, and then and he took the water. This is the like whenever we meet any great personality or whenever welcome, this is especially for grihasthas. Like when a great personality, our Guru Maharaj, uh, comes to your place, devotees wash their feet and sprinkle the water from the Charnamrita on their own head and the heads of their family and devotees around. So Pṛthu Maharaj is giving us guidelines how to welcome the great devotees and how to honor them and how to take their blessings. So after this, king took the water which was washed the lotus feet of Kumaras and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, shows how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. Um, yeah, Srila Prabhupada is quoting from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Apani Achari Prabhu Jivere Sikhai. It is very well known that whatever Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught in his life as Acharya, he himself practiced. Chaitanya Chaitanya Mahaprabhu um, came to teach Krishna Bhakti. He came as a devotee, and then everything he was teaching, he was practicing himself. Even from like Sankhya Purvak Naam Gananati. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used this special, whatever the line I just said, Sankhya Purvak Naam Ganagati. This is from Shad Goswami Ashtakam. But about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that he used to chant uh, Sankhya Purvak. Even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always engrossed in Krishna's remembrance, always in the mood of separation, Vipralamba Bhav, but he used to just to teach all the devotees that how important it is in our sampradaya to chant on your beads with a count, and not being haphazard, sometimes chanting and sometimes not chanting. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sometimes he used to chant on his fingers, like there is a technique, right, with which you can count 108 on our fingers. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes used to chant like that, sometimes he used to chant like beads, just to teach all of us that chanting with proper number every day regularly is very important. Mm, Even though he is Supreme Personality engrossed in Radha's mood in Krishna's devotion and way beyond any of these Vaidhi Bhakti practices, but Mahaprabhu taught by his example so that we all can learn. So similarly, Pṛthu Maharaj is teaching us the etiquettes of welcoming and pure devotees of the Lord. Yeah. And then these four great sages were elder to Lord Shiva. When before a manifestation of Lord Shiva, these four Kumaras were born. So they are elder brothers of Lord Shiva. And then when they were seated on golden throne, they appeared just like blazing fire on the altar. Um, and after this step, Pṛthu Maharaj and his associates welcomed them. Then now the step, what should be doing next after honoring these great personalities? Then it is Tadvidhi Pranipatena, Pariprashnena Sevaya. He served them and now he will be asking them questions very humbly about self-realization, about this material world and how the struggling souls of this world can be uh, saved. So Srila Prabhupada in this purport mentions about the Brahmacharya Vrat of the Chatush Kumaras and how they are the Acharyas. So Maharaj Pṛthu, out of his great gentleness, respect them, began to speak with great restraint. With great restraint, he was very cautious of his word, what he is speaking to them, because they are acharyas. So, yeah, they are mentioned. Srila Prabhupada is saying Kumaras are described herein as elder brothers of Lord Shiva. When Kumaras were born out of body of Lord Brahma, they were requested to get married and increase the population. In the beginning of creation, there was a great need of population. Therefore, Lord Brahma was creating one son after other and ordering them to increase. However, when Kumaras were requested to do so, they declined. They wanted to remain brahmachari throughout life and be engaged fully in the devotional service of the Lord. The Kumaras are called Naishtika Brahmachari, meaning they are never to marry. Shastras over again and again mention, and this is fact, that like brahmacharis or sannyasis, they are more naturally engrossed can be more naturally engrossed in spiritual practices. When it's about grihasthas have more engagement, more chances of getting engrossed in material world and forgetting the the most important thing out of dharma, artha, kam, moksha, which is liberation, and then just being engrossed in material world. Subsequent verses speak in depth about this particular topic. And that's why, seeing this downside of grihastha Kumaras chose to be Naishtik Brahmacharis. Yeah, because and Lord Brahma became angry that his eyes became reddish, and from his reddish eyes, Lord Shiva was born, Rudra. So that's why Lord Shiva is a deity of ignorance. The mode of anger is consequently known as Rudra. Lord Shiva also has a sampradaya party known as Rudra Sampradaya, and they are also known as Vaishnavas because Lord Shiva is also pure Vaishnava. Vaishnava Nam Yatha Shambho. So yeah, now Pṛthu Maharaj is starting to speak to Chatush Kumaras. Yeah, now he is glorifying them. How rare it is to see the pure devotees like Chatush Kumaras, and how rare it is to get their association. So yeah, this is the sign here. This great quality of a Vaishnava, humility. He's presenting Pṛthu Maharaj, whose life was so full of pious activities that even Lord Vishnu came to him, but he was so grateful and so humble on the arrival of Chatush Kumaras. Which is where, yeah, any person upon this verse. This is verse number 8, right? Yeah, verse number 8. Yeah, any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this material world as well as after that. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. That's why we Every day in the temple we sing Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Vaishnavas are like desired tree. They can actually fulfill our most deepmost desires, which is getting back our relationship with Krishna. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the bearers of Lord Vishnu, the all auspicious, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Shurita Bhakti Vilochanena. The devotees, out of their extreme love for Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always carry the Lord within their hearts. And they can give Lord to anyone they want. That's why they are mentioned as they can give anything. Srila Vishnavana Chakravarti Thakur, in his 8 stanzas on spiritual master, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasadu. If we can receive a mercy of pure Vaishnava by pleasing the spiritual master, who is both Brahmana and Vaishnava, one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, then one has nothing more to achieve either in this world or afterworld. Yasmin tushte jagat tushte. The verse says that if you just please Krishna, everyone else, then everyone else is pleased. It's like watering the root. Yeah, and then Pṛthu Maharaj is further continuing his question and his glorification of Chatush Kumaras. Is that how they are wandering and how they are knowledgeable about the super soul. So we will go to 10th verse. Yeah. So a person who is not very rich and is attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and servants who are engaged in offering the exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and of paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is also glorified. Pṛthu Maharaj is a Grihastha, a Rajrishi, and he is again presenting ideal example of a Grihastha. And then this is teaching for Grihastha, that person who is not very rich and is attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. His opulence suddenly increases. And so here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is discussing like how one can welcome up depending on our material situation, how one can be in any situation. One may be very rich, not very rich, or very poor, or whichever condition, but in all those conditions, it is duty of a family man to welcome the sadhus or Vaishnavas and worship them and welcome them. And a conclusion is that if a saintly person goes to the house of even an unimportant man, such a person becomes glorious by his blessings. Like Jagai and Madai, Nityanand Prabhu went to his place, not even to get welcomed by him, but he was thrown a like stone on his head, and Nityananda Prabhu got hurt, but still, by mercy of the Lord, they were turned into pure devotees, and they became Jagdananda and Madhavananda. Their samadhis are still there. So it is therefore Vedic system that a householder invite a saintly person in his home to receive his blessings. The system is still current in India, and therefore saintly persons wherever they go are hosted by the householders, who in turn get an opportunity to receive transcendental knowledge. It is the duty of sannyasi therefore to travel everywhere just to favor the householders who are generally ignorant of values of spiritual life. When such personality comes into house of Grihastha, and they share and they share the transcendental knowledge, they impart transcendental instructions which elevates the Grihasthas and make them think about Krishna. And here Prabhupada mentions like how even if someone is not very rich, how he can welcome saintly persons, and regardless of his position and economic conditions, one can receive guests. He can at least offer them water or a seat. Um, yeah. So if it's depending on our capacity. And then what's 11? Yeah. On the contrary, even though full of opulence and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come and where there is no water for washing their feet is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live. This is very instructive. If we have some opulence, but it is not used in the service of devotees, this is especially for grihasthas, that if whatever opulence, wealth we have by mercy of Krishna, if it is not utilized in service of the devotees and Krishna, it turns against us. It turns against us in a way that it engrosses us more and more into this material world, and ultimately we end up wasting our human life. So to save this grihasthas from this vicious cycle of material world, great personalities come, and we need to learn to honor them and and utilize our wealth and our resources in their service. Again, Prabhupada in very detail explains the duties of grihasthas in this purport. Srila Prabhupada is specially mentioning here. Similarly, there are many rich men who keep watchdogs or doormen and put up a sign that says, "Do not enter. Trespassers not allowed. Beware of the dog." It is sometimes in Western countries a trespasser is even shot, and there is no crime in such shooting. This is the position of demoniac householders, and such houses are considered to be the residential quarters of venomous snakes. The members of such families are no better than snakes, because snakes are very much envious. They are so much envious that snakes can eat each other. So the comparison, the analogy of snakes is very serious here. And when that envy is directed to the saintly person, their position becomes more dangerous. And that time they become aparadhis. It is said that by Chanakya Pandit that there are two envious living entities, the snake and the envious man. The envious man is more dangerous than a snake, because a snake can be subdued by charming mantras or by some herbs, but an envious person cannot be pacified by any means. Uh, in this way, Maharaj Pṛthu offered welcome to four Kumaras, and then addressing them as the best of the Brahmanas, he welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observe the vows of celibacy. Although you are experiencing the path of liberation, you are keeping yourself just like children. By their yoga shakti, yoga samartha, they were keeping themselves just like children because they were brahmacharis." In this purport, Prabhupada glorifies brahmacharya. The specific importance of Kumaras is that they were brahmacharis, living the life of celibacy from birth. Yeah, because they kept them like 5 years old, because growing into youth, one's senses sometimes become disturbed and celibacy becomes difficult. Therefore, Kumaras purposefully remained children. Um, and then should offer respect to Vaishnava not only as a Brahmana but as a best of Brahmana. But yeah, apart from that, being Brahmachari, their great qualification was that they were pure Vaishnavas. Not only they were Kumaras born of bred Brahmanas, but they were addressed herein as Dvija Shrestha. Prabhupada explains that the best of Brahmanas, and who are those? They are Vaishnavas, on account of their being Vaishnava also. That this quality is even more important than that. So 11, 12, 13, 14. Pṛthu Maharaj inquired from the sages about the persons entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? So here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explained that Maharaj Pṛthu did not ask about Kumaras about their good fortune or their well-being, because Kumaras are always auspicious by dint of their celibacy and by dint of their pure devotional service. So he immediately asked about how the people who are struggling in this material world and whose only aim is sense gratification, whose only aim is sense gratification, they are the most vulnerable as per the Tattvavedas, and they need most help in this world. So this sense gratification, people engaged in this, how they can be helped. Further, it is explained that the Pṛthu Maharaj, he himself is self-realized and have knowledge about all these things, But as soon as some great acharya or some great sadhu comes, for the benefit of general people, great devotees ask these questions so that they can hear from these exalted souls like Chatush Kumaras. Now, in the 11th verse, 14th verse, Pṛthu Maharaj continued, "My dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you." This And then this auspiciousness and inauspiciousness is further explained in this purport. Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Krodhat bhavati sammoha. By material association, we lose our spiritual consciousness. Consequently, there is the question of auspicious and inauspicious. But those who are Atmarama or self-realized, like Chatush Kumaras, have transcended such questions. The Atmaramas or self-realized person gradually making further progress in spiritual bliss come to the platform of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were in constant communication with the Lord, constantly in his association. That why there was no question of like um, not good fortune or any other material situation for them. Like as it comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, कृष्ण है सूर्य सम माया अंधकार जहाँ नाही जहाँ कृष्ण तहा नाही मायार अधिकार. My words are not perfect, but where there is Krishna, it's like sun. If there is sun, there cannot be darkness. So if there is Krishna, there is no question of Maya. And that is explained about Chatush Kumaras. Now I will directly move to verse number verse number 32. There is so many important verses in between of this chapter, and each verse has this. Most of the verses have very big purports, but we'll try to cover verse number 32. नातः परतरं लोके पुंस स्वार्थव्यतिक्रम यदधनस्य प्रेयस्त्वमात्मनः स्वव्यतिक्रमात्. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other. So after the prayers and questions of Pṛthu Maharaj, uh, Sanat Kumar, who is the eldest among the Chatush Kumaras, started speaking, answering questions. And now he's explaining the science of self-realization to Pṛthu Maharaj. So this is one of those verses. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, human life is especially meant for self-realization. Self refers to the super self and the individual self, the supreme personality of Godhead and the living entity. When, however, one becomes more interested in the body and bodily sense gratification, he creates for himself obstructions on the path of self-realization. By the influence of Maya, one becomes more interested in sense gratification, which is prohibited in this world for those interested in self-realization. Instead of becoming interested in sense gratification, one should divert his activities to satisfy the senses of Supreme Soul. Anything performed contrary to this principle is certainly against one's self-interest. Since we are in this material world, and which is glorified as anityam, asukham, dukhalayam, ashashvatam, everything is supposed to be degrading towards the lower end. So Sanat Kumara is stressing that it is a big obstruction, even thinking that something else is important than the self-realization. Because of that type of thinking, one changes one's priorities and may consider the material objectives more important than self-realization, and then end up spending human life on like in one of the purport Prabhupada mentions, like childish economic progress and material progressive activities. So because of lack of this knowledge or seriousness, we can set really bad goal for our life and then end up wasting our precious human form of life. So these verses further go on. This was 32. For human society, constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply it for sense gratification brings about the destruction of everyone's interest. When one becomes devoid of knowledge and devotional service, he enters into the spaces of life, like those of trees and stones. Again, Sanat Kumara is giving Pṛthu Maharaj the instructions, the nature of this material world, and what happens when one is engaged into sense gratification. Constantly thinking, it is necessary as grihasthas to make money, to have our residence, to take care of families. It's not mentioning about denying our responsibilities and just leaving everything away, but it's about the consciousness, and that's what Srila Prabhupada stressed. uh, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, it's about the consciousness. So nowadays we see, like, we are everywhere. It's on social media platform or whoever we talk with, it's about make you have to think, like, you have to think all the time about your material progress, and then you will achieve it. People are being pumped unnaturally, um, or in the name of self-help maybe, or whatever motivation, or like, and all the materialistic propaganda that you have to engross your complete thinking for the material progress, but that is completely denied here. um, I, in one of the lecture, I remember Vaishashika Prabhu saying that self-help is not very helpful, because it's like warm bath. I mean, you feel very nice when you are taking warm bath, but as soon as you are out, you are cold. It doesn't have permanent impact. In a similar way, this material thinking, it can make us momentarily happy, but ultimately it will lead to more sorrow. So constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply it for sense gratification brings about the destruction of everyone's interest. When one becomes devoid of knowledge and devotional service, he enters, and then what's the result of it? We have to downgrade to the lower species of life, because our consciousness is not elevated, it is downgraded. Just ahara vidra bhaya maithunam cha samanyam etat pashubhir narana dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesha dharmena hina pashubhi samana. These are the common factors that other species and human have in common, which is ahar, nidra, bhay, and maithun. And if we are just doing that, or even though apparently our intellectual activities are around that only, then we will be we will be demoted to the animal species of life. And Factually, all human society is following this path. Some way or other, people are determined to earn money or get money by begging, borrowing, or stealing, and applying that for sense gratification. Yeah, purpose of making money is applying that for sense gratification. Such a civilization is greatest obstacle in the path of self-realization. Yeah, I have heard in some lectures that those who are trying to practice Vaishnava life, it gets even more important that we utilize our money up to best of our abilities in serving devotees and constructing temples, in book distribution, these pure activities of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, whatever we are money we are making, we cannot guarantee that it's coming from pure sources, right? From for whoever we are working, especially in USA, all the MNCs we are working for, they all are into businesses of this butchering cows and animals, animal products, and so many unethical things which are not approved by Shastra, and we are working on for them. We are part of them somewhere. So whatever money we make from them, the karma, the and reactions of karma will come, and to purify our earning, purify our money so that it can be utilized in Krishna's service, we should be donating in the right consciousness for the service. And Srila Prabhupada have given us immense opportunities to render these services. So then we go to verse number 34. Yeah. Those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nescience must not associate with the modes of ignorance, for hedonistic. So this word hedonistic is, yeah, is my screen visible? The meaning that I have popped upon. Engaged in pursuit of pleasure, sensually self-indulgent. That is called hedonistic. Indulgent, pleasure-seeking, pleasure-loving, luxurious, running behind luxury, engaged in pursuit of pleasure is called hedonistic. So for hedonistic activities are the greatest obstruction to realization of religious principles, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last liberation. So this kind of mood of making money and enjoying is, it's even obstruction to these first three material things: economic development, regulated enjoyment, and then it's also obstruction to liberation. And next verse mentions that how out of all these principles, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, has to be taken very seriously. The other three are subject to destruction by stringent law of nature. Death. Yeah, other will end up with this. Even whatever progress you make by dint of your material knowledge or by your pious deeds, but those will destroy. But that's why the most important is liberation or pure bhakti, which is independent of the impact of kala or time. So then we'll go to 33rd and 34th verse, 35th. Out of the principle, the other are subject to destruction by stringent death. Next verse. We accept as blessings different states of higher life, distinguishing them from lower state of life, but we should, we are at the 36th verse. Yeah. Okay. So let me say something. The liberation, yeah, the others are depending on kala. And I wanted to mention in this context, so till now the verses we read, they all were reminding us that there is pretty much chance of in this material world to forget our real dharma, which is Athato Brahma Jigyasa, inquiring about the absolute truth, Krishna, and increasing our inclination towards the Radha Krishna, and engaging ourselves in pure devotional activities. So for this, Srila Prabhupada give us very potent program of attending morning program, reading Srila Prabhupada books, and taking only eating whatever is offered to Krishna, and regularly going into the devotee association, and avoiding bad association, going on yatras. So this engaging in all these activities will very strongly establish in our mind the truth that how serving Krishna and engaging in devotional service is the best use of human life, and how one can that very easily achieved by association of the devotees. So I remember during this Srila Prabhupada's appearance day festival after Janmashtami, many Prabhupada disciples gave so touching offerings to Srila Prabhupada, and the last one was Vaishashika Prabhu's. So his whole offering was about whatever are the teachings that we are learning, but the most important, the root for them all is reading Srila Prabhupada books. And he explained that how he got so serious about reading Srila Prabhupada books, that some devotees were nicely distributing the Srila Prabhupada books, and one temple president told that this group of devotees is distributing so many books. Maharaj was one of them, Vaishashika Prabhu was one of them. And then Prabhupada told them personally that you should be reading my books too, very seriously. It's nice that you are distributing them. And Vaishashika Prabhu told that since that day he took it as instruction, and he shared like very very steps he took to systematically read Srila Prabhupada books, and how it established him very strongly in Krishna consciousness. And how he, I mean, it was really touching that how he requested everyone in the temple to do the same. So, I mean, if there is some time, I wanted to hear this with all of you. This is his offering. We can hear like 5-10 minutes, but I will request everyone to hear this. His whole offering was about reading Srila Prabhupada books. And recently, I remember one devotee asked him question about like the distraction as a result of social media on our phone, right? There are it's full of so many distractions, and how to avoid it. One gets helplessly dragged in that sometimes. So Maharaj was mentioning, he gave very simple solution that try to read paper books. Try to read paper books, and especially Srila Prabhupada books. Don't read on your laptop or on your phone, or try to read as much as in the touch of the book, and the feel of the book is instantly elevating, and then it will help you engross more of the mercy. So we'll just hear 5 minutes of this, and then we'll move towards. But if we cannot complete, like, yeah, please listen it later on.
Brunandana, those who are on the path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. Our only business is to be fixed up in devotional service by pleasing the spiritual master. Those who are not fixed up, they have various lines of action. Eka means one, and Bahu means many. The real ocean of mercy is Krishna, and it is the duty of the spiritual master to tell his disciples to come to the ocean and be happy. The spiritual master's duty is to lead the disciple to this ocean. I am trying my best, and if you try to follow, surely you will benefit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite paro, tomar shakati ache. Ami to kangal, Krishna Krishna boli, dai taba pache pache. Krishna is yours, and you have the power to give him to anyone you wish. I am poor and wretched, and running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna is unlimited. No one can catch him. But if someone follows the parampara, he agrees to be captured. Everyone is afraid of Krishna, but Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda. That is Krishna's special mercy. I hope this meets you all in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. On the above letter, Srila Prabhupada writes, the spiritual master's duty is to lead the disciple to this ocean. I am trying my best, and if you try to follow, surely you will benefit, he says. He reiterates this principle in his purport at Srimad Bhagavatam 10.230. We have to follow in the footsteps of such devotees, for by this one easy process, one can cross the great ocean of nations, just as one might cross a small hole created by the hoof of a calf. Anyone who wants to advance, that was end quote, anyone who wants to advance in any field of practice needs a pace setter. This is especially true for those who want to reach Krishna, for devotees depend only on the mercy of Krishna for their advancement, and to please Krishna and attract his mercy, one must please Krishna's devotee. Krishna says, Mad Bhakta Puja Vyadika. The worship of my devotees is better than worship of me. In the line of spiritual masters from Lord Chaitanya, there are notable pace setters whom all devotees follow. The 6 Goswamis, for example, are famous for their continuous engagement in varieties of devotional activities, writing books, excavating holy places, building temples, as well as hearing and chanting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote over 100 books and thousands of bhajans, and reestablished Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur chanted 1 billion names of the Mahamantra, wrote and spoke Krishna Katha prolifically, and laid the foundation for an international society that would inculcate Lord Chaitanya's teachings to the world. And Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON's founder acharya, not only did all of the above, but also, using his spiritual master's blueprint, spread the Sankirtan movement to every part of the world. Now generations to come may follow the authorized spiritual path because of the pace that Srila Prabhupada set for those who wish to reach Krishna. And what a pace Srila Prabhupada set. Those who worked closely with his divine grace remember that even as young devotees, it was difficult to keep up with him. Collectively, we are all still running, according to our capacity, behind Srila Prabhupada. Here's a personal example in which I find myself running behind his divine grace, begging for his mercy. Once in San Francisco, when I was blessed to sit before Srila Prabhupada's desk in his room for a darshan, he emphatically said to a small group of us, "You must read my books." His statement inspired me. I already liked reading his books, but now I had a good reason to keep doing it. A few years later, my conviction to read Srila Prabhupada's books was strengthened even more when I read his purport at Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 25, 278. Quote, all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure, unquote. Even after so many years of trying, I am still running behind Srila Prabhupada, trying to catch these instructions and fully embrace them. Along the way, I've received inspiration from those who have been running harder than me to do so. For example, a couple of decades after hearing Srila Prabhupada say, "You must read my books," I received some divine inspiration from a dear godbrother to follow this order more sincerely. It was during a Rath Yatra festival in San Francisco when I happened to meet my scholarly godbrother, Hanumat Prashek Swami. Meeting together after many years, he asked me how much I was reading Srila Prabhupada's books. When I replied that I was reading regularly, which was true, he tested me by peppering me with questions from various sections of the Srimad Bhagavatam, many of which I could not answer. By his mercy, I was embarrassed, but inspired to read more extensively and deeply. By my godbrother's words, I felt Srila Prabhupada prodding me, pushing me to pick up my pace in reading his books. Later that day, upon reaching my home, I took a long look at our bookshelf filled with Srila Prabhupada's beautiful books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Nectar Devotion, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Nectar of Instruction, Sri Ishopanishad, and so on. The more I thought about these spiritual treasures that Srila Prabhupada had left us, the more I realized how substandard my reading of them had been. I had memorized verses and I had read most of the books, but how deeply had I read? I thought, had I covered every paragraph of every book? Was I able to give a dissertation of each one, the way a PhD student might at the time of their oral exams? My answer to myself was no. I suddenly felt incomplete. I lamented for a few days, but then got motivated. I'm going to renew my vow to follow Srila Prabhupada's order to read all his books, I thought. My next thought, however, was, but how? There's so many of them, and I have so little time. I was inspired, but overwhelmed. The answer to my, but how?
Yeah, sorry, I will stop here so that since we are close to our time, but yeah, please, you can hear rest of it. It's really nice, very helpful. And yeah, I'll stop here. Thank you so much everyone for hearing so patiently. All of whatever things I shared, those are for like, yeah, I mean, it's for me. Please don't think that I'm talking out like big things, because I'm also struggling and trying to learn. And yeah, thank you so much for all of your time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Vamsidhar Gopal Prabhu. Beautifully led, very nice, and very beautifully you covered all the aspects of this section. beginning from how Pṛthu Mahārāja received the Four Kumāras and how he questioned them and the wonderful answers by Four Kumāras. And finally, the icing on the cake was when you played the talk, like Vaisheshika Prabhu's offering to Srila Prabhupada on his Vyas Puja. So yeah, very nicely led, Prabhu. Thank you so much. It was very sweet. Yeah. Anyone else has anything to share, reflect? Please go ahead.
Any comments, reflections?
Yes, Prabhu. Hello?
Haribol, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. So I just want to highlight, like, it was wonderful session. I made so many notes and it was amazing. And so I want to highlight like a point that you mentioned and that was stuck with me. So you said like if we have opulence and if we don't use it in the service of Krishna or devotees, then it can turn against us. And we can get more entangled. So I think from today, this will stay with me, like this quote or like this particular comment. This will stay with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for sharing your realization.
Okay, so if anyone else wants to share, or else we'll call it a day.
Yeah, 7. Thank you, everyone. Again, yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva
Namah.
Koti Vaishnava. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Okay.